Economics class 12th, Money and Banking. So we will start understanding the concept relating to money and banking in this particular video, and thereafter we are going to look at certain MCQs which are dealing with these topics. So the first question which comes up is, what is money? Money क्या होती है? And for that, basically what we need to do is we first need to understand what exactly is the meaning of money. So money is anything which is generally used as a medium of exchange. So when you say a medium of exchange, that means two people exchange some goods between themselves, and money acts as a medium whereby one person gives money to the other. So for exchanging value between them, money is one of the medium which is used. The second is, it's a measure of value, which means that if you are giving something, what is the value of that particular thing? And if you are receiving something, what is the value of this thing? Both the things may have different value. Money helps in measurement of relative value of both these things and therefore facilitates exchange of goods. The third is a store of value. Now what that means is that if a person had some perishable goods like fruits which are valuable today when they are harvested, but he needs to collect something maybe 10 days afterwards, but he cannot store the fruits for 10 days because they will rot by then. Therefore what happens is, by using money you are able to sell the goods that you have, get money in exchange, and then store the value of these particular commodities, let's say apple in this case that you have sold, and then store it through money. You are able to store this value and use it for buying something else at a later date. And means of standard deferred payment. So it acts as a means for standard deferred payment. So what are the functions of money? There are two primary functions, there are two secondary functions. Acting as a medium of exchange and a measure of value are the primary functions of money, whereas acting as a store of value and standard of deferred payments are the secondary functions of money. The next question is, what is covered as money? Now, money can cover various things like coins, something that is being put over here in this piggy bank. It can cover paper notes. You have dollars in this particular example, but then you can have rupees also, pound also, or any other currency in the form of paper notes. Checks. Check is something which is issued through which one person makes payment to the other. The recipient can go to the bank and get the money in exchange of this particular check. Digital money and plastic money. Digital money means it's online payments. Plastic money means credit card, etc. Now, we've seen what is covered as money, but what is the purpose for which money can be used? Money can be used to conduct business transactions. So if there are two people, X and Y, and they want to enter into purchase and sale of goods, money facilitates this. Why? X can pay money to Y and in return get goods from Y. So money is facilitating conducting of business transactions. It also helps in settlements of business claims, which means that any business claim which might be there on Y, whether in this example it is due to sale of goods, or suppose if there's a person who provides services to Y, if Y has to settle this, they can do it through the use of money. What is the advantage of money? Money, the biggest advantage is that it can be used to buy anything and it is legally accepted by everyone. Now, of course, there are restrictions to this. When you talk about India, everyone is legally bound to accept the money which is used in India, which is in the form of rupees. So the legal acceptability is backed by the jurisdiction where, or the place where it is offered. In India, if you offer payment in US dollar, no one is legally binded or legally liable to accept payment in dollars. He may say, I don't want to receive it, I want only payment in rupees. So the currency which might avail in a particular country, if the payment are made in that particular currency, then everyone has to legally accept them. Second is, it removes the problem of double coincidence of wants. Now this is also again very important. If there are two people, X and Y, X has certain milk to sell, Y has apple to sell, but X is looking for, let's say, oranges, but there's no one to sell oranges. Now this is the reason that X cannot do an exchange with Y, because there is no coincidence of wants. But money solves this problem. Why? Because X can go and sell milk to another person, let's say Z, get the money in exchange, and then go and buy oranges from a person who's selling it by using this money. Money supply. Now, money supply refers to the total money held by the public. So the first important thing about money supply is that it is the total money held by the public at a particular point in time, which means, let's say on 31st March 2021. So the money is held by the public at a particular point in time. It is not over a period of time, which means, let's say it's not from April 1, 2020 to March 31, 2021. It is at a particular point in time in an economy. So let's say the economy could be an Indian economy. So money supply refers to the total money held by the public at a particular point in time in an economy. Now, because the money is held at a particular point in time, it's a stock concept. The other one is the flow concept, but that flow concept is something which prevails over a period of time. If something is there at a point in time, therefore it is a stock concept, and therefore money supply is a stock concept. Let's look at the various types of money. So when we talk of type of money, the first one that comes is legal tender money, and legal tender money can be further divided into limited legal tender money and unlimited legal tender money. When we talk about limited legal tender money, like the word limited itself suggests, it is that form of legal money which is used to make payment for the debt up to a certain amount. For example, suppose X has to pay Y 5 crore rupees. Now he has a choice that he can make this payment by using coins, by using notes, by using check, or anything else. We discussed that all of them were kind of money in some of the previous videos. But when you talk about coins, now you can't use coin to make a 5 crore payment, because that's a huge amount, one. So there are certain limited legal tender money, even though this is a legal tender, which means if I offer you coins, you have to accept it, you cannot refuse. But these can be used to make payment only up to a certain amount. And the ones falling in this particular case in limited legal tender money are coins. Whereas in unlimited legal tender money, it is the form of legal money in which you can make payment of debt for any amount and there is no fixed limit. So it is not that there is a limit up to which you can make payments in rupees or checks, etc. Of course, beyond certain payments, there may be banking restrictions, there may be tax implications, etc. But legally, no one can deny you to make use paper money or currency notes for making payment up to any amount. These are known as unlimited legal tender money. Let's look at now types of money. So there are three types of money which are there, which is full-bodied money, representative full-bodied money, and credit money. When we talk about full-bodied money, and here in these type of the first two at least, The comparison is that, let's say for example, you've got one coin of 1 rupee. This coin is made up of a particular metal. If you sell this metal, let's say for example, whatever it might be, if it's, let's say, copper. Let's say this rupee coin is 10 grams of copper, and the value of copper, 10 gram of copper, is, let's say, rupees 5. So what this means is that the face value of this money, which is 1 rupee, is less than the intrinsic value of the metal of which this money is made. So depending on whether this value, intrinsic value, is more than the face value or less than the face value, you have the concept of full-bodied money or representative money. So full-bodied money is that form of money in which the face value is equal to the intrinsic value of the money. What that means is, let's say for example, if there's a commodity value is equal to money value. So if you have a gold coin of 10 gram and the value in the market is 1 gram of gold is equal to 5,000, if the value of this 10 gram of money is 50,000, that means that the commodity value, the value of gold, is equal to the money value, which is 50,000. So you can sell this for 50,000. As against this, when we talk about a representative full-bodied money, in this particular case, the commodity value is less than the money value. So you see that you've got a 500 rupee note. The paper from which this note is made, the value of that paper is less than 500, which means that the commodity value, the value of the paper, is less than the face value or the money value, which is 500. Therefore, in this particular case, what we say is that the commodity value is less than the money value. Now, let's talk about credit money. When we talk about credit money, it is any future monetary claim against a person that can be used to buy goods and services. So what happens is that in your accounting, you would have learned about IOU or bonds issued by companies. When a company issues bonds or debentures, they basically issue a paper certificate to another individual who gives money to the company for such a certificate. What this certificate by itself represents is that the company owns this individual a particular amount of money. So that money is known as basically the credit money, and this can be used by this individual to get the money from the company, or he can go to a third party and sell this, and through that money he can buy goods and services. This basically is referred to as credit money. Now let's look at the monetary system in India. Under the Indian monetary system, basically what happens is that you have RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, which acts as the monetary authority. What that means is that the Reserve Bank of India has the sole monopoly to issue currency in India. It is not that any other bank can print paper notes or currency notes. That authority is actually vested with the Reserve Bank of India. The RBI follows the paper currency standard. The currency is actually printed in terms of papers. You don't see any gold coins now. The coins are limited legal tender money, which means that they can be used to make payments only up to a particular limit. Let's look at measures of money supply. How do you measure the money supply? Money supply, as I told you earlier, is the supply of money or money held by the public at a particular point in time in an economy. Now, how do you measure the money supply is something what I'm going to tell you now. So there are four measures, four methods through which you can measure the money supply in the economy. These are referred to as M1, M2, M3 and M4. We'll look at M1 first. M1 is the first and the basic measure of money supply. Yeah. What does M1 stands for? It stands for currency held by the public. So if the public is having, let's say 100 people are having 1 lakh each, then it's basically 1 crore. Demand deposits of commercial banks. So there are several commercial banks in India. When you take the aggregate of demand deposits of all these banks, that is something added to the currency held by the public and other deposits with RBI. Now what this means is deposits other than demand deposit of commercial bank are not to be counted for the purpose of M1, and other deposits with RBI are to be considered for this purpose. Or in other words, M1 is equal to currency and coins with the public plus demand deposit with commercial banks plus other deposits with RBI. When you look at your multiple choice questions, you may be given either all the three of them, maybe two of them, or one of them. One may not solve your problem, so at least two or three of them would be given to you, and you may be asked to calculate M1, you may be asked to calculate this number, you may be asked to calculate this number. Let's talk about high-powered money. High-powered money, also referred to as or denoted by H, refers to the money produced by the RBI and the government. It includes currency held by the public and the cash reserves held by the bank. So when we were talking about M1, included currency held by public plus demand deposits held by commercial banks plus other deposits of RBI. Here it includes only currency held by the public and the cash reserves held by the bank. It is different from money because money consists of demand deposits, while this includes cash reserves which act as a base for generating demand deposits. So demand deposit, you'll see later, is basically nothing but a percentage or something which is created based on the cash reserves which are available. So this we will see as we progress.